continue to. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Female Empowered Podcast, where we talk about the real, the raw, and the oftentimes brutal experience of being a small business owner, especially a female small business owner. Today's episode was going to be about how to prepare for a quarterly check-in. But then I decided I'm going to go a different route. Why? Because there's been a lot of feelings, a lot of emotion this week. Something that happened in my business, which I will be sharing with all of you very, very, very soon. But it really prompted me to want to talk about courage, want to talk about vulnerability, want to talk about comparison, and really, really talk about the mental battles that come with stepping into this arena of business ownership every single day of our lives. So, if you started your own business, you already know this, right? We don't just build a business, we build a part of our life, right? We birth something into reality. We create something. We fund it with our own money, with our own energy, with our own sleepless nights. We become the CEO, the marketer, the customer service rep. We are usually the technician. We're the visionary. We're the one-stop shop. We're the ones that carry the risk. We're the ones that take all the complaints and negativity and really getting sometimes beat down on day in and day out. And we do it because we are high achieving. We are probably a little crazy, and we want something bigger than ourselves. We want to create a lifestyle that we feel we're going to have more freedom, more financial stability. But here is the real truth. If you are going to own your own business, if you are going to be an owner operator, one thing for sure is that you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because there is one thing I can guarantee will happen when you step into this arena. It's you will get your ass kicked. That's not a possibility. That's a certainty. People will say mean and hurtful things about you. People will question every single decision you make. People will praise you for good things, but they'll also beat you down when something goes wrong, right? You have to shoulder all of this, all of these feelings, all of these emotions, and keep doing it day in and day out, over and over again. So if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable and you decide to be a business owner, well, let me tell you something. You're going to learn really, really quick what it means to be uncomfortable. All right. That is what being a business owner is all about. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into a little bit of sharing the mental mindset we have to succeed as a business owner. And I'm sure this is going to resonate with a lot of you today. So like I said, this episode was spawned from something actually really, really exciting that happened in my business this week. And like I said, I will share it with you soon. And I was listening to a podcast, and the person that was being interviewed talked about this quote, which we've heard a lot. I believe Brene Brown shares it a lot, but it's about being in the arena. Okay. And I'm going to read you this quote because this is something that really changed a lot for me as a business owner, but it also, I really think will resonate with all of us. Okay. So here's the quote. It is not the critic who counts, not the woman who points out how the strong woman stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the women who are in the actual arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, but who continues to spend herself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, when she fails, at least fails daring greatly. So that is the place that shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Now, that does say men. I changed it to women just because this is a podcast for women, by women, for women. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the arena. Let's talk about the fact that if when you look in this quote, it says those of us that are in the arena will know high achievement. All of us have done it. We started a business. That is high achievement. And we will also know failure. It is the same opposite sides of the same coin. Success and achievement, failure and failing. Okay? And what I really realized when I listened to that quote, and when I listened to this podcast as I was walking earlier today, and I just came home and I said, I'm gonna, while all of my emotions are running high, I'm gonna record this podcast. So, like I said, I really want to be clear about something, that if you are going to build your arena and you are going to spend any time creating things in this arena, you will 100% get your ass kicked. It's the only certainty we have, right? It's like Mike Tyson's quote that says, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. That's what starting a business is like, right? We all have a plan. You can do all the budgets. You can do all the forecasting. You can do all the projections. You can do all the pro formas you want. You can do all of that. And at some point, you will get punched in the face. All right. So how does this sound in terms of familiarity? It's 11 o'clock at night. Your kids are finally asleep. People have been fed. Dishes may or may not be done. You're at your kitchen table trying to reconcile your books, looking at the numbers and thinking, what the fuck does all of this mean? Where is this $3.12 and why is it not reconciling, right? You missed your kid's soccer game today because an instructor called in sick at the last moment and nobody else would step up to cover the classes, okay? You had yet another client emergency that required you to step away from a family gathering. Your last staff meeting was full of complaints from your team about pay rates, about raising rates, about schedules, about vacation requests, all while nobody knows that you just spent another $10,000 to update equipment and buy more inventory of your family savings, right? And in the back of your mind, somewhere you're thinking, is this all worth it? That is what being in the arena means. And if somebody hasn't been there in that arena, they won't understand what that moment feels like. Okay. They won't understand even CEOs of companies, and if they're not the founders and if they're not the ones that have invested their own money and are running this day in and day out, it's not to say that that's not high stress. Of course it is, but it's not the same feeling that we as women have. All right. And one of the things I want to explain to you, and I want to share, and part of it is sharing for me and myself as well, is when I listened to that quote when I was on my walk today, I realized something, because of course it was Brene Brown doing it, and she talks about shame and vulnerability all the time. All right. And one of the things that I realized was when she read that quote and she talked about shame and vulnerability, is I realized that some of the people I have put in my own arena were not just people that were praising me and people that were happy for me. I actually didn't put enough of them in my arena. And what I always see sitting in front of me in the very front row are three characters all the time. One of them is shame, right? They're sitting in the front row and they're whispering to me, who do you think you are? Why are you standing up here in front of this staff meeting? You're not qualified for this. They are rolling their eyes at you because they know that you're a terrible boss, right? They know that you're not going to be able to pay them what they want. And they know they don't like you. Okay? They don't like you. They're just waiting for the next job to come along so that they can leave and do something better. Okay? The person sitting next to them is scarcity. And they're sitting right beside them and they're reminding me that there are hundreds of women doing it better than I'm doing it. Okay? There are women out there that are winning all the time And my team are going to go work for those kind of women. Why? Because I'm mean and nasty and I don't give people, praise like they should get. And I'm going to train all these people and they're going to go work for the Club Pilates that's going to open up down the street, right? And then right next to shame and scarcity is comparison. Okay. And looking at all these new studios pop up on Instagram and looking at all these people that seem to have positive lifestyles and looking at all these people whose team loves them and adores them. Meanwhile, I have all these other thoughts in my head, right? And those critics are loud. They're loud. They're persistent. They are mean. They're like reading mean tweets about me over and over and over. Okay. Oftentimes, what I've learned later in life is a lot of times those are the voices that are rearing their ugly head from growing up, from feeling about myself like I'm not good enough, or I'm only good enough if I'm achieving X, Y, and Z, or if I'm only good enough if I can be the best mother, the best boss, the best leader, where everyone loves me, the best friend, the best daughter, right? And if I'm not those things, then I'm not good enough. And I'm not the right kind of leader. I don't praise people enough because I'm mean, right? Or I don't hold people accountable because I'm vengeful, right? Or of course, look, I took my eye off the ball and I started holding people accountable and now the business is tanking. I knew it. I knew I didn't have what it takes. I knew that I knew this day would come when the other shoe would drop. All right. And what we do in those instances and in those times is we make ourselves small. We make ourselves smaller to make other people more comfortable. We don't hold people accountable to make them more comfortable so they won't leave. So that won't mean to you that you're a bad boss. So now we make ourselves small and we have all of these thoughts in our head and all of these ruminating understandings of like, if X happens, then Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, and F are going to happen after that. Okay. And so it happens. We might not think that we do this. We might think like, well, I'm always angry. I don't make myself small. I make myself big in ways that people are not comfortable with, but we do it without even realizing it. I'm actually going to tell you a really quick story of how I realized it the other day. And it was just really, it doesn't have anything to do with business. I was in the sauna in the gym. There was nobody else in the sauna, just myself, which usually doesn't happen. So and there's like 3 different benches. I lied down on one bench, like lie down, legs long. And then I thought to myself, this isn't really nice, Krista. You shouldn't take up so much space, literally. So I bent my knees. There's nobody else, mind you, there is nobody else in the sauna right now. Then somebody else comes in. She sits on another bench, not even close to me. Okay. A few minutes later, somebody else comes in. I literally start inching my legs closer and closer to me to take up less and less space so as not to not to make someone who's not even close to me uncomfortable. Okay. Finally, someone else came in and I sat up and I was like, by the way, we're all on separate benches. And I still, to not make somebody else uncomfortable, I change my comfort, right? And it wasn't like I was taking up space and I wasn't allowing somebody else to sit. There was 3 benches. There were 3 of us in the sauna, all of us on different benches. But these are how things happen, how we make ourselves small, how we see this every day in women entrepreneurs and myself included, I'm sure, and yourself included. We downplay our successes so we don't make other people uncomfortable. We don't talk about success because we don't want to make our team feel uncomfortable or we don't want to make our friends feel uncomfortable. We hold back, raising our prices because we fear that people are going to think we're greedy or we're selfish, or we don't want to make the clients bad because then they won't like us. And what does that mean about us? We hesitate to show up authentically as who we are because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to hold set expectations and we don't want to have meetings because we don't want to their teams to eye roll at us and make us feel a certain way. We second guess every decision we make because someone maybe said, well, that's not a good business decision. Well, why are they making decisions about your business if, once again, they're not in the arena with us? Okay. We look at Instagram and are like, oh, look, that was a full class. Look how well they're doing and not us. First of all, Instagram is curated. Even my Instagram is curated. Okay. I don't always show the days that I'm crying on there, that I want to throw my computer through the roof. Days where people have said to me, I cannot wait till you sell your business so that I can work for somebody else. Days that clients have said to me, you don't know what you're doing. We're going to go somewhere else. Or like, oh, it must be nice to have a trust fund. Like, I don't show all of those days. I do show some of them because I want to keep it real, but social media is curated. Okay. We have no idea what's happening behind someone's business, behind the doors, the same way we don't know what's happening behind our neighbor's house, like in other people's marriages and other people's relationships. We do not know. Okay. But here's something that I want to share with you. We have the power to change our behavior, our thoughts, and our mindset. Okay. We can decide, no, I'm not going to let this go down this way. I am going to take control over this narrative. I am going to articulate how my story and how I want my business to go down, my success, and I'm going to own my behavior. I'm going to own when I make a mistake, but I'm also going to own when I made a decision that catapulted the business to a new level, right? I am going to celebrate our latest achievements, mine included. Okay. I am going to celebrate myself. If someone's going to steal your thunder and take credit for someone, you can decide to let them articulate that narrative, or you can choose how you want to celebrate it. You survive a tough month, celebrate it. You land a big contract, celebrate it. You didn't scream at your kids today, even though you were ready to lose your shit, celebrate that. Okay. You didn't throw your computer out the window when when another staff member quit on you with no notice. That's a celebration. Okay. We don't need the external validation to prove that what we're doing is meaningful. If you need to hear it from others, put yourself in the room with other people that are in the arena. Okay. When something happens to me that's great, I share it with the people that are going to cheer for me and be happy with me. Those that are going to celebrate me and not think, oh, she's so good for, she's too good for her britches, or she's always commenting on this, right? This journey that we are on as business owners, it's not just about surviving. Okay. It's about thriving. It's about us. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us having control over our narratives, over our story, over our life, and over our experiences. Okay. We can make our story however we want to make it. If we want to tell someone, listen, I passed a 7-figure mark. Yes, amazing. Congratulate yourself. You know what? I listened to someone call me a raving lunatic the other day, and I didn't lose my shit and tell them they could go fuck themselves. That is progress for some of us. Okay. And for us female business owners, we don't just battle on one arena, we battle on 2, 3, sometimes even 4. Okay. At work, running our business, we're fighting to be taken seriously. We're fighting to have rah everyone to basically do their job, to deliver excellence, to grow sustainably, to become profitable. And then at home, we're fighting guilt that we're not there enough, that we're not the same kind of wife that maybe our parents or in-laws want us to be. Or maybe that your friends are like, oh, I can't believe your husband lets you own a business. Really? What the fuck is that? Right? Or who's watching your kids while you're here all day? Okay. Or I'll never forget, I'll never ever, this is literally like a knife in my heart. When my kids were in preschool, and I think they set some event up at something like that at like 11:30. And my kid came home and said, Mom, you're the only mom that wasn't there. That honestly was like gut wrenching. It literally felt like a knife to my heart and then twisting it a bunch of times, you know? But that's like what I was talking about. Like getting your ass kicked in the arena. A question like that gutted me, right? Because at that point, I was working so hard for my kids, for the life that I wanted, but I was not doing what I really wanted to do for myself. Okay. So I learned to change the narrative with my kids, right? While I thought I was working for them, my kids used to think that I was working instead of being with them. And I started to talk the narrative about, you know what? I didn't say mom has to work. I'd be like, mom wants to go to work today. Mom is making a change. And, when I share big news, my kids are some of my biggest supporters now. They love it. Okay. And they're always asking me about how things go to work. And I think that that is a really great life lesson that I've taught to my kids. And also I share the ups and downs with them. I've even asked my kids sometimes, when I'm like, hey, this happened at work with like this team member, what do you think? And I'll never forget one time my son was like, Mom, it seems to be really upsetting you. Why don't you just talk about it so it doesn't upset you anymore? And I was like, oh, out of the mouths of babes, right? It would be so easy. And I'll tell you, like, there's people out there now that say, women, we can have it all. We can have it all. And I believe that we can have it all. I just don't believe we can have it all at the same time. And that's why we feel like we're failing all the time. Or at least that's been my experience. Okay. My experience is like we have choices in life. And the more I learn to set up my business for what worked for me, to set the expectations and the policies and hold people accountable so that, as a business owner, we always carry the majority of the risk. Okay. We carry we sign personal guarantees on the leases, which means if we default or our business goes under, we're personally liable for that. When we take out loans or line of credit, a lot of times we're personally liable for that. Okay. People, if they're not happy at that job, they can quit and go get another job somewhere else. An owner cannot do that. An owner has to sit there and listen to people complain, listen to people talk bad about you and your business. Like being a business owner, you need to have a thick skin, or you are going to grow one very, very fast. Okay. Because for some reason, people think it's okay to speak certain ways to like owners, and I don't think I've ever been spoken to a way negatively because I'm a woman by a client, but definitely I think people take their own experiences out on you, and I think a lot of people don't understand all of the behind the scenes that happens on a business. Like when people don't see me at the studio often and they're like, "Oh, it must be nice to be on vacation all the time." No, I'm not on vacation. I work from home where I'm growing the vision. I'm doing the budgeting. I'm making sure that we're profitable. I'm figuring out how we can give people raises, how we can make our numbers work without raising prices, negotiating leases, negotiating contracts for wellness events. It takes a lot to operate $1 million business. It doesn't happen just naturally. It takes someone steering the ship. All right. So we as business owners have to have a thick skin. We have to. Right. And I think some of us like bottle all that up. And I think it's important every once in a while to cry or punch a pillow or, don't throw your computer out the window or your cell phone because that gets costly. Okay. But we should not have to listen to the people in the cheap seats. Okay. The people that aren't taking the risk, the people that are sitting with shame, guilt, comparison, and all those people. Okay. They're shouting at you from the cheap seats, right? They're dissecting your choices, they're questioning your decisions. But we don't need to take advice. We don't need to take any of that on from the people in the cheap seats. You know why? Because they're not in the arena with us. Our instructors are not in the arena with us. Okay. Our team, they're there to support us, but in the end, they can leave at any time. They can go walk out that door. And we're the ones that are staying here that are holding the arena up on our shoulders. Okay. The people in the cheap seats no longer get a say in my life. They don't. They're what's the word I'm looking for? They are allowed their decision. That's not the word I'm looking for. They're allowed their opinion. Of course, they have the right to their opinion, but I wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's broke. I wouldn't take parenting advice from someone that doesn't have kids. Okay. I wouldn't take, like, I never knew what it was like to have the love of a dog until I got my dog Duncan. In fact, people will tell you, like, I really wasn't a dog person. I didn't understand it until I got my own dog. And people who don't or who have never owned and operated a small business that they funded and started with themselves will not understand what it's like to be a business owner. Okay. And people often ask me, like, why do I keep going? I keep going for a number of reasons. Okay. After all the struggles and setbacks, why do I continue to put myself out there every day? I stay in this arena because I know what's at stake. I know that I'm building something bigger and better. And I know that I'll be in the arena for a long time because most people leave this arena when it gets really hard. And those of us that stay are the ones that are going to be able to change things for our life, for our family's life, for our clients' life, for our team members' life. Okay. I stay in this arena for the women that are just starting out in business and wondering if they have what it takes. I stay in this arena for the woman who's had a terrible month because someone quit at the last minute, asking if it's worth it to keep going. I stay in this arena for the women who are tired of being underestimated, undervalued, overlooked, taken for granted. Okay. Because I know exactly what it feels like. And it's something that we cannot explain to someone who hasn't lived it, right? Just like you can't explain like the depth of the love we have for a child for someone who hasn't experienced that. Nobody could tell us what it was like. I mean, people did tell us what it was like, but we couldn't feel it or believe it until we actually experienced it ourselves. And so I want to be in this arena for all of the women that are brave enough and vulnerable enough to put them in the arena because I understand what it's like to walk in your shoes. I understand what it's like to compare yourself to other people. I understand what it's like to have someone tell you to fuck off. Okay. Have someone quit at the last minute and leave you high and dry, or set up shop down the road and take some of your clients, or think that all of the marketing and money you've put into buying the equipment and getting the clients, somehow those are their clients, right? I've had people think and say hurtful things about me. And I've had other professional women in the industry say hurtful things about me, right? And the quickest way to blame people is when we don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. And I recognize that no, I'm not always the best version of myself. And I've learned over the years to take accountability for that. And I've also learned over the years to control my own narrative. Okay. If I want to celebrate myself and I want to be proud, I can do it myself. I did it this year for my birthday. I wanted to have a nice birthday celebration. I was tired of waiting for people to do it for me, so I did it myself. I hosted a great birthday dinner with like 20 friends and it was fabulous, right? Rather than say like, "Oh, well, I wish they would have done this. I wish they would have done this." I can take control of it and say, "No, this is what I want and I will create it and make it happen." Okay? We all have the power to create the outcome. Now, it might not be a really easy, smooth sailing to get there, but no matter how business savvy someone is, if they haven't founded a company with their own money and through their blood, sweat, and tears and operated that business to a successful, sustainable way, they just simply don't get it. They don't understand the responsibility when it's our name on the line, our mortgage on the line, our family future on the line. And if it all goes up in smoke, the employees can go get another job. And we sometimes are left literally personally holding the bag for the failure. Okay. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be doing stuff in your life and looking in the front row is that, again, shame, guilt, scarcity, and comparison. You're not good enough. They're doing it better than you. They like this other owner better than you. They like this instructor better than you. And we just have to learn from those situations and say, is that really true? And can I control perfectly if someone likes me or not? Or what is more important to me in my business? Is it creating systems and processes that will lead to a business that is strong enough and valuable enough that somebody will see value in it and want to pay you money to purchase it? What's more important? That all the people love you and like you, or that you're being clear, you're being kind, you're having the courage and bravery to set up these processes because you know in the long run that will behoove everybody. It will benefit everyone that comes along with you on this ride. So, one of the things I want you to know, what I want you to take away from this is to win in this game, and like Simon Sinek says, it's an infinite game. There's no winners or losers in the game of business, but to at least keep playing, you have to keep showing up. We have to take risks. We have to keep making big, bold moves, even when you're scared, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel ready to do it. That's what courage is. Courage is not the absence of fear. You've heard this quote. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyways. Okay. This journey that we have chosen to go on, this group, this arena that we have chosen to be a part of, it's not just about surviving. It's about how do I show up here? And that is something we can control. We can't control how other people show up. We can control how we show up and how we can stay true to our values when the pressure is on, how we can be clear and kind about what matters to me, even if it means holding people accountable and getting uncomfortable doing that. Because again, at the end of the day, courage isn't about being fearless. It's about having enough clarity. It's about having enough values and knowing whether something is successful or not is irrelevant as long as it aligns with what you truly care about. Most of us hate vulnerability. Why? Because we were trained to think it was weakness. Being vulnerable, I thought that for forever and ever and ever. Believe me when I tell you, I would have rather stab myself in the face with a fork than talk about my feelings or cry in front of someone or have someone cry in front of me. But I've learned over the years that without being vulnerable, we stifle a lot of our creativity. We do. We stifle creativity without being vulnerable. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to get punched in the face from time to time in this crazy world of entrepreneurship that we have chosen to go into. And that's okay, because I want you to remember that you're not alone. The arena is full of women just like us. We are getting knocked down, but we get back up again. We're fighting for what matters most to us. All right. We'll be dirty, but we can go at the end of the day, take a shower and clean ourselves up. So let's be the kind of women that build lifestyle businesses that will put our kids through college, that will help fund our retirement, that will help impact our communities to move and live healthy, pain free lives. Let's do that despite the challenges that we face in business and at home. Let's do that in spite of the critics that are shouting at us from the cheap seats. Let's do that as a meaningful version of our life, okay? And let's remember, I'll be in the arena with you. I am here with you. I am showing up unapologetically as myself, okay? And if, if these kind of things resonate with you, if you have felt difficulty being vulnerable, if you have felt like shame and guilt and scarcity and comparison are these like little devils on your shoulder that are always telling you you're not good enough, you don't have what it takes, you don't have it good enough, or that you're feeling like you want to burn it all down, because I can tell you every successful entrepreneur at some point, probably multiple times, has felt like taking fuel and lighting the whole shit on fire. If you're doing it right, you are going to piss people off along the way. Okay. But that's oftentimes when it's usually right before a big breakthrough is happening, when you're at your most uncomfortable, but you do feel in your gut like this is the right decision to make. It's just uncomfortable and you'd rather not make the decision. It's usually right before a big breakthrough in your business. When people are leaving or saying that you're not a good boss or saying like I don't like the way you run things, but you know in your gut this is aligning with your vision, your mission, and your values, and people are choosing to get off that bus, it's usually right before a big breakthrough and a big level up happens. So if this episode resonated with you at all, oops, I just dropped my mic, sorry. But if it resonated with you at all, I invite you to share it with another woman who's in the arena with you. Let's all get in the arena together, and all of our voices multiplied will drown out the people shouting at us from the cheap seats. Okay. If it resonated with you, I invite you to share it with another business owner or another female friend. Tag me on social media on Instagram. I'm at Krista Gurka. Let's definitely keep the conversation going. If you'd love to join me in my arena and let's get in the arena together, visit my website, kristagurka.com. We have a monthly membership group that's month to month. You can pay as you go, cancel anytime. And it's full of women in the arena amplifying our voices for each other. And until next time, I invite you to stay brave, stay bold, keep showing up, women. Just keep showing up unapologetically as yourself. And until next time, bye for now.